Alright, so today we got a surprise update on Jumpstart servers, so I want to go over that, since it is something I've covered before and I think they could be helpful to the game. So we're just going to go down the list here. So first off, you are getting a brand new server for each one of them, and you are getting a Southbound Power Pass, which is 1415. Now they are still isolated, which means matchmaking, auction house, everything like that is all within that server. You will not be able to interact with people outside of that server. Now it's right here at the start where they cover one of my biggest concerns I had, which was if these players can go off the server or if the server reconnects, which it will reconnect within the next 6 months is what they say. So before I get into my opinions, let's go over the rest. So we have a Story Express, a Jumpstart, and a Mid Cocoa Express. On top of that, you're also getting XP boost to roster, character, stronghold, trade skills. These are all very important, along with an exclusive event. So that could be nice. On top of that, there is other exclusive events going on in there as well. That is really about it. That's all they're really saying so far. And so let's talk about it a little more. So going back to the way they want to handle how to integrate these players into the normal servers. They want to just add this server onto the normal server list, not a Jumpstart server, reintegrate it in about 6 months. So the big W part of it is the fact that these players will be integrated into the normal servers after time. I did not want this to be a separate economy and everything forever, because I think that is bad for the game to just segregate people off. Because then you're leaving old servers to die and not have any new players come in, and then that would just be a problem for the game. Now with this design, it is very much implied kind of that this is made for newer players, and the design of it really deters older players, veteran players, to really go into this server and just want to try it out or help people out or just make another character on it. Because most players are not going to want to redo their roster progress. They're not going to do all their horizontal progress over again on another server just for a little easier time honing. You're going to waste more time doing all this horizontal progress. You're going to be spending more time redoing all that stuff, not to mention cards, making the time saved on a character just not worth it. You know, for a content creator doing, content like Stoops and everybody like that, they're probably just going to make a character have fun out with their community, which is great. But for a hardcore player or for a just player who's been around the game for a while, they're not going to be swayed to go over to this new server, which again might be their intention, because maybe they don't want those kind of people in there. They don't want the people who know the fights really well. They just want people to simulate the learning experience, which I can get behind. I can say that that is good for the new players to learn the game as close as possible to how we did. Personally, I do wish that it was once you get to a certain item level, like get to 1540 for example, you're able to transfer that character off and onto your normal roster. And another scenario is, like, for example, I have a friend who's starting Lost Ark, and I can't have him go to that server and eventually transfer onto my server to have him join my guild and just kind of have him be part of that community. But a little bit more about how they're doing this, the style emerging. Now that means that Jumpstart servers are going to be a temporary thing, which means they are going to just turn into a normal server, which means all these event things are going to go probably after those 6 months. So this means that if Jumpstart goes well and they want to do it again, they're going to be opening up another server eventually down the line, another Jumpstart server. This could eventually lead to a lot of server bloat, and then this could lead to more server merge situations, because they're probably just going to have too many servers that they don't want to deal with, and they're just going to want to just pack people into servers instead. And also the way they're handling this means that how I talked about before in my other video is I was hoping they would do something to kind of make busing not a thing, like deter it, but that's just not going to be a thing. So it really makes you wonder how long it's going to be until it just becomes kind of like a normal server where there's going to be busing and gatekeeping, because again, there are going to be people who are starting off ahead using the power passes, while other people are going to want to do it naturally, so they're going to be behind. And something I almost forgot to mention is returning players. So we decided that this is really for new players, not too much old players. And returning players, it really depends on how far in horizontal progress and that kind of stuff, like cards, collectibles and all that stuff, how far in that you are. And then you really have to decide, is it really worth easier honing to redo all this? But if you really haven't done much of that, then it might be worth it. It's at that point you got to make a judgment call, since it doesn't seem like they're going to be merging region-wide horizontal progression anytime soon. And honestly, I don't think they'll ever do it, because people, well, Smilegate will probably see that as a way of people to cheese not buying character slots. Because why buy a character slot when you can just make it on another server and still do most of the same things besides being in the same guild and have to do, like, you can't do server trading obviously with the people used to and stuff like that. But yeah, those are my major thoughts about Jumpstart as we've gotten this update. So I just really want to say this server is really just for new players. This is not going to be a server for older players to go into, because you're just not going to be able to hold on to your roster and all the content that you've done already. So you don't have your roster progress, you don't have your horizontal progress. There's no reason for a experienced player to come to the server for faster honing just to redo LOS and all that other stuff. But for new players, I think this is great. I think it will help them a lot, because again, this will help them try to simulate what we've had to go through. This is the closest thing that new players are going to get to the new game experience that we had going into it. But for better or for worse, there is a power pass and jumpstart thing, so not everybody will be progressing together. So there will be people who are like just getting into Vaulton while other people are probably like deep into Brawl at that point. But regardless, I think these people will have a lot better raid learning experience than they would in a normal server. So I do think this is a great idea. This is something I think new players should go to. Despite the downsides I do see of it, I do think this is a overall W. But it really doesn't do a whole lot for fixing Lost Ark as a whole. So yes, this will help players learn. This helps the first time experience as in going through raids and going through stuff, but it's only going to really help, or I should say push back the gatekeeping experience till a later level, basically until they get off the server and meet up with all the normal servers. But even then, let's be honest, there's probably going to be gatekeeping like a month in Vaulton, even less maybe. With the current state of the game, where we are at right now, honing in this game isn't really that much of a problem until around 1540. The bigger problems are ones that still haven't been officially addressed, I should say, in game. However, they have talked about it, which is going to be a lot of this horizontal progress, things like cards, because you know we're 17 almost 18 months in now, I think, and I have a friend who just got Light of Salvation 30 this week, and everyone who's been just blue balled on needing a single card for the last month or so. Now, he's losing like 7 or 8%, I can't remember which one it is, off that one card. The biggest problem, the biggest hurdle for all these new players getting into the normal servers after this, it's going to be the same thing as people who have been on there all this time. It's going to be things like cards, it's going to be island souls, it's going to be collections, it's going to be getting all these side content things like skill points to really maximize your character. People might just be weird of taking people who come from that server. Yes, there are going to be extra card packs through the events and stuff on the islands, and we'll have to see how good they are, but I can't imagine in 6 months they're going to let people have LOS 30 when they leave that server. Now, in the latest Gold River stream, he did say that they are going to try to address all of these kind of things. They are going to try to address all the horizontal progress, all that kind of stuff that is effective power. They do want to lighten the load on that. So Jumpstart isn't the fix, but it certainly is a helpful thing. Because the truth is, Lost Ark is in a transition state. It is trying to make the game more friendly and more approachable for newer players because they do not do tier resets. They're not trying to restart things from over, but it's a rising ceiling that they're trying to address people to get up. They're trying to give them the escalator instead of making them walk up the stairs. They don't want it to be free, but they don't want it to make it feel like you can't achieve it. Right now, people getting into the game, they feel like they just can't go anywhere. They feel like they are hard stuck. For the next 6 months, they're gonna have a pretty decent time. But once they go back to the normal server and then suddenly they gotta deal with people gatekeeping for Light of Salvation or high level gems or whatever it might be, you effectively just push back the struggle wall until you adjust this horizontal progress problem. So that's really about it. That's my thoughts so far within this last hour of seeing those patch notes. I should mention that I am going to make a couple information videos, I guess, for newer players, since again, I mentioned earlier, I do have a friend getting into Lost Ark and he's had a lot of questions, and I'm like, oh man, there is so much that he's got to learn. And so it gave me a couple ideas of a couple information videos for the newer players that we'll hopefully be getting. So that'll be it for this video, and I'll catch you guys next time.